Hey guys, this is your host Eric. Today we are going to watch action genre movie called We Still Kill the Old Way. Spoilers ahead, turn on your subtitle, I greatly appreciate your support. Enjoy the video. The film begins with a middle-aged man named Richie and a retired mafia leader practicing shooting. He is a British citizen who has moved to Spain to spend his retirement as a retired mafia boss. Richie is anything but ordinary. Furthermore, he lives in a lavish home that demonstrates his wealth. Richie and his daughter Carmen were having lunch that afternoon when he mentioned missing his older brother Charlie, who lives in England. The scene then shifts to Charlie discussing Richie in the past with some of his friends. Simultaneously, he receives a phone call from Richie in Spain. The siblings express their longing for each other over the phone. Charlie rejoined his friends after receiving a call from Richie. At the same time, a woman named Lizzie, Richie's friend, approaches Charlie and asks for Richie's number because she has long been interested in him and believes she is the right person for him. Charlie eventually agrees to be a matchmaker and gives out his phone number. Aaron and Lauren are walking down a deserted street. Aaron, a gang leader, is revealed to be attempting to trap his girlfriend Lauren by transporting her to a gang of gangsters in a narrow alley. She is harassed in that narrow alley, and they even record their actions on purpose. One of the gangsters' team tries to stop his friends from harassing Lauren, but he is stopped by Aaron until Charlie arrives because he hears a commotion behind him. Charlie noticed the gangsters about to harass him. A woman then asked Lauren to leave and reprimanded the entire group. Instead, they insulted Charlie, so he hit one of them. Aaron is enraged by his actions and orders that he be ganged to death. Not long after Lizzie, who had just emerged from the bar, Charlie was shocked to learn that her friend Charlie had died that night in an alley near the bar. Lizzie informed two detectives, Susan Taylor and unfortunately, due to a lack of evidence, the two detectives were unable to apprehend Aaron and his gang. Furthermore, Lizzie did not witness the incident directly and only saw the gangster group emerge from the small alley where Charlie was discovered dead. After that, she told Richie about Charlie's death hearing, which he appears to be devastated about and intends to return to. The scene then shifts to police detectives Susan and John approaching Aaron and his gang and threatening to arrest and imprison them if they are found guilty of murdering Charlie. Aaron, on the other hand, appeared to deny the accusations and chose to leave. After the two detectives left, he asked his friends to keep Lauren quiet because she had witnessed their action. Dean, who is aware of the plan, goes to her house and informs her that Aaron is on her way to threaten her. Dean also advised her to remain indoors for her own safety. Aaron and several gang members then arrived in front of Lauren's house via the house mail hole. He forces her to remain silent and not tell the police what happened to Charlie. He also threatened to kill her and her mother in another location. Richie had arrived in England and met Roy, one of his people, right away. Richie then went to Lizzie's house to inquire about Charlie's whereabouts. Lizzie stated that she did not witness the incident firsthand. She believes the killers of Charlie were gangsters who frequently caused trouble in London. Richie and Roy then went to the crime scene where Charlie was murdered. At the same time, they ran into Susan and John, who were looking into the incident. Susan requests that the case be turned over to the police, knowing that Richie was the most respected former mafia leader in the past. He certainly didn't want to turn over the case of his brother's death to the police, but he agreed to do so in front of them before leaving the place. Lizzie informed Richie late at night in the bar that she had discovered a video of Aaron and his gang harassing Lauren. She believes the video has something to do with Charlie's death. Lizzie, who knew Lauren, then gave Richie Lauren's workplace address. Lauren, who feels indebted to Charlie, was asked by Richie about the events that killed his brother Lauren. Finally, she tells him about the incident in a quiet area near her workplace. She informs Richie that the local gang led by is the mastermind behind Charlie's murder. However, unbeknownst to them both, a girl from Aaron's gang sees her and begins telling others about what they did to Charlie. DK returns to headquarters and informs Aaron that Lauren discussed the incident with a man named Richie. Aaron, who assumed Richie was just another middle-aged man, appeared relaxed and unconcerned. The scene then shifts back in time to show Richie and his mafia colleagues at Charlie's funeral. Soon after, an old man named Arthur arrived at the location, and Richie joked that he should leave because he was too old to hang out with them. Upon hearing his words, Arthur became enraged and told Richie that he was the only one who almost beat Richie. Richie and everyone else laughed as a result of that joke. After that, he thanked Arthur for gathering his friends. After the funeral, Richie runs into an old friend named Jack, a retired police commissioner who lives in a simple house. He asked Jack to assist him in locating information about Aaron and his gang. If Jack is willing to assist, Richie promises to give Jack some of his belongings in order for him to live a better life in retirement. A few days later, Jack provided information on some gang members. Unfortunately, He discovered no information about Aaron, the group's leader. Richie asked his friends to kidnap 2 gang members, Leroy and Ed, after learning that the perpetrators were a group of elderly people. Richie's question about Aaron's whereabouts was ignored by Leroy and Ed. They, on the other hand, made fun of Richie and his friends. They didn't even think twice about threatening Richie and his friends. Richie and his friends laughed when they saw this because the 2 young people they kidnapped didn't seem to know their true identity. Previously, the hearing ended with Charlie being insulted. He began to lose his cool. After hearing Richie's orders, Arthur began to remove nails and hammers from his back. Arthur inserted the nail into the back of Ed's hand without hesitation. It did not end there. He took out a drill and began drilling Ed's. Leroy became terrified when he saw his friend being tortured in this manner. He did not want to be tortured. Leroy, like his friends, is eager to assist Richie and promises to lure Aaron from his hiding place. Richie's friends obviously don't believe him, but Richie agrees to his offer and sets free. After Leroy is free, he reaches for a gun in an attempt to shoot Richie before pulling the trigger on his gun. Richie quickly shot Leroy. Richie stated that he, too, did not trust Leroy. He simply did not want to kill someone who was defenseless. They all laughed again shortly after when they were about to question Ed. He dies as a result of their torture elsewhere without realizing it. Aaron appears irritated that 2 of his team members have just vanished. He mistook 2 members for being attacked by his gangster adversary. The next day, Richie returns to Lauren to assist her in locating the remainder of Aaron's belongings. She tells Richie that one of the gang members, JB, used to be in the parking lot, feeling bad about seeing Lauren. He eventually requested her phone number. Unfortunately, Lauren died before she could give him her phone number. Susan, the detective, arrived and attempted to protect her. Richie was asked not to involve her daughter by Susan, who turned out to be her mother. The next scene takes place in a parking lot. JB, who saw Arthur alone in the parking lot, assumed he was a frail old man, so he tried to intimidate Arthur. However, as soon as Arthur pulled out a sword, JB, who was riding a bicycle, pedaled away. JB was about to fall when a car stopped in front of him. Richie's friends are apparently driving the car, and Arthur's presence in the parking lot is a trap to trap. JB, who was kidnapped by Richie and his friends, was discovered tied and hanging in an abandoned building. Richie inquired once more about Aaron's whereabouts. Unfortunately, JB, who dismisses everyone, refuses to reveal any information about Aaron and his gang. He even mocked Charlie in front of them, saying that when they beat him to death, he looked like a stupid dog. Richie was enraged after hearing that, so he beat JB to it. Unfortunately, Richie's illness returned, and he was hospitalized as a result. He requires medical attention and then devises a plan to lure Aaron out of his hiding place. A few days later, it was discovered that Aaron and his gang were preparing weapons to deal with enemy gang attacks. Lauren, on the other hand, unexpectedly arrived at the headquarters to meet him. She informs him that Rich has kidnapped and killed all of his missing gang members. She also stated that Richie was currently hospitalized. Lauren received a phone call from her mother in the middle of their conversation. Aaron advised her to take the call so Susan wouldn't suspect her. After Lauren and his gang members tell Aaron everything, he arrives at the hospital and kidnaps her. He directs his team to disperse in search of Richie's room. Soon after, 2 gang members entered Richie's room and fired at the bed, believing Richie was lying. However, Richie and friends appeared behind them and opened fire on them, unbeknownst to them. Aaron, who was in the elevator, heard the gunshots and became suspicious that Richie had figured out his plan. He eventually checks Lauren's phone and discovers that Lauren and Richie were planning to frame him and his gang. Aaron was enraged after learning that Lauren had set him up and planned to kill. Fortunately, Dean had just arrived to assist her and push Aaron to the ground. Following that, there was a fierce firefight between Richie's group and Aaron's gang Lauren, who realized that the situation was out of hand. I immediately contacted Susan and requested that she accompany me to the hospital. Richie's group, on the other hand, had managed to kill Aaron's gang members one by one. Unfortunately, one of Richie's members was shot in the hand and was immediately treated at. Dean then attempts to save Lauren and takes her away from the hospital. However, Aaron discovers this and holds her hostage in order for Richie to come out to meet him. After that, Richie and his friends emerged from hiding to find Aaron poised to shoot from behind. Dean foiled Aaron's plan, causing his gun to bounce toward Rich. Richie grabbed the gun right away, but he was having trouble getting the bullets in, so Aaron appeared in front of him, pointing another gun at him. Aaron's gun, however, had run out of ammo, so he couldn't kill Richie. At the same time, Susan and several police officers arrived and immediately shot Aaron because he was deemed a danger to Richie. Richie was seen in a hospital bed after the incident. Susan also came to thank him for her rescue. Richie threw a big party at the club a few days later. He meets Lizzie there and learns that she is interested in him. When he asks Lizzie to stay in Spain, she refuses because she does not want to leave England at the end of the film. Richie's friends appear depressed as a result of his departure to Spain, especially after their efforts to avenge Charlie's death. But then Richie appeared unexpectedly behind his friends, who had assumed he had flown back to Spain in his private helicopter. He informed his friends that he had decided to stay in England and live with them. Richie and his friends are shown at the end of the film, preparing to crush crime in London as a form of atonement for their past sins. We really appreciate you watching. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notification bell because it is really important for us. Thank you.